They use this information to tell you what type of person you are. They also tell you what might happen to you in the months and years to come. Palmists are people who look at the lines on your hand and tell you if you will have long life and good luck. Others predict the future from the pattern formed by the tea leaves at the bottom of a cup. I don't believe in any of these things. I have no desire to know what my future life will be like. If something bad is going to happen to me, I don't want to know about it. For example, if I knew that I was going to be injured in a road accident, I would never dare to go out of the house. I hope that I will have a happy and healthy future, but I know that I cannot be certain of this.
Seven. Jobs. Before you read. 1. What do you want to be when you grow up? 2. What jobs do your parents do? Reading passage 1. In this passage, 6 children talk about their grandfather's working life. Mr. Wang had 6 grandchildren. One day, at a family party, the 6 cousins were talking about their future careers. "What would you like to do when you leave school?" asked Sally. "I would like to become an actor, like our grandfather," said her brother Ben. "Did you know that he starred in several films in the 1960s and 1970s? "That is not what he told me," said Anna. "He said that he spent his working life in the medical profession. He earned a lot of money as a brain surgeon in Beijing." "Nonsense," said Tom. "He told me that he had been a gardener. He was employed by the city council to look after the flowers and trees in the parks." "I don't think he's told any of you the truth," said Kate. "He had a very important job as a diplomat. He traveled to many foreign countries in his work for the government." "Perhaps we should ask him what he really did for a living," said Mark. So they went and did just that. Mr. Wang smiled. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," he replied, and that was all he said.
Reading passage 2. This passage is about a young man's first job. Jack wanted to earn some money before going to university. He looked at the advertisements in the local newspaper to see if there were any jobs he could do. Most of the employers wanted people with experience, that is, people who had done similar work before. Finally, Jack found an advertisement for a job at a supermarket. The work involved filling empty shelves and helping customers pack their shopping. Jack wrote to the supermarket. 2 days later, he received a letter inviting him for an interview the following Monday. He was very excited and a bit nervous as he made his way to the supermarket. He was smartly dressed in the suit he had bought for his cousin's wedding earlier that year. The manager of the supermarket was a woman of about the same age as Jack's mother. She asked him various questions to find out if he was suitable for the job. She also told him what hours the employees had to work and how much they were paid. A week later, another letter from the supermarket arrived for Jack. He hardly dared to open it. When he did, he was delighted to learn that he had been offered the job of shelf stacker and general assistant.
Eight. Your health. Before you read. 1. Do you know which kinds of foods are good for you? 2. How much exercise do you get each day? Reading passage 1. This passage is about things you can do to look after your health. Everyone wants to be healthy and strong. There are two important ways in which you can keep fit. The first is to eat the right kind of food. The second is to have plenty of exercise. Good foods such as meat, fish, milk, fruit, and vegetables will give your body the things it needs to grow and work properly. The vitamins in food help your body to fight the germs that cause diseases. Other things in food give you energy to work and play. Putting food into your body is like putting fuel into a car. By taking exercise, you use up the parts of this fuel that would otherwise make you fat. Exercise is also good for your heart and lungs, and it makes your muscles strong. There are many ways in which you can take exercise. Running, swimming, cycling, and playing energetic games are best. You can also do special exercises that involve bending and stretching different parts of your body. It is easy to exercise as you go about your daily life. Walk or cycle instead of going by car or bus. Climb the stairs instead of using a lift or escalator. What could be simpler than that?
Reading passage 2. This passage is about a man who always thinks there is something wrong with him. Gary Grown is not a sick man, but he always says he is. If a new disease is discovered, Gary will think that he has it. He does sometimes catch minor illnesses, such as colds, as we all do, but he always makes them seem worse than they are. You or I would recover in a couple of days. It takes Gary at least a week to get better. When he has a pain in his chest, he thinks there is something wrong with his heart. When he has a headache, he thinks there is something wrong with his brain. One day, as he took his morning shower, Gary noticed that he had a rash of red spots all over his body. He dashed into his bedroom to look in the medical book that he always keeps by his bedside. There was a special section on rashes with colored pictures of the spots. Gary decided that his rash looked exactly like the one associated with the most serious disease. He went to see his doctor, who sent him for tests at the hospital. They showed that Gary was perfectly well. The rash was caused by the washing powder he had used to wash his pajamas.
9. Parties. Before you read. 1. Do you like preparing food for parties? 2. Do you know anyone who has retired from work? Reading passage 1. This passage is about Mr. Lee's retirement party. Mr. Lee retired from his job as a bank manager when he was 60. He invited all his friends to a retirement party at his home. The rooms in his house were small, but he had a large garden, so he held the party outside. He had a marquee in the garden, where the food was served. The meal was a buffet, supplied by a catering company. Mr. Lee had thought about buying and preparing the food himself. He was a good cook, but he didn't want to be too tired to enjoy the party. So, he decided to leave all the hard work to someone else. The food was laid out on 3 long tables in the marquee. It looked delicious. The catering company also supplied all the crockery and cutlery. Mr. Lee did not have enough plates, bowls, knives, forks, and spoons of his own. The party was a great success. The guests helped themselves to food from the buffet. Most came back for more, and some even had a third helping. Then one of them presented the host with a large cake. Everyone had a piece of that as well.
Reading Passage 2. This passage is about a surprise birthday party for Jack's mother. Jack helped his father prepare a surprise party for his mother's 40th birthday. They invited all her relatives and friends. The guests included some women she had not seen since they were girls at school together. Jack produced the invitations on his computer. He put RSVP at the bottom. This meant that he wanted the people to tell him whether they could come to the party. "Put your email address on the invitations," said his father. "If people reply by letter or phone, your mother might find out about the party. That would spoil the surprise." The party was held in a hotel. There were too many guests to fit in the house. Jack's father had told his mother that they were going to a restaurant, so she was a bit surprised when he parked the car outside the hotel. And she was even more surprised when she walked into a room full of people she knew. They all shouted, "Happy birthday!" There were colored balloons and other decorations around the walls. The tables were loaded with food and drink. In the middle of one of the tables was a huge birthday cake with 40 candles on it.
"10. Weather. Before you read. 1. Is there a lot of rain in the place where you live? 2. Have you ever given money to help people in trouble? Reading Passage 1. This passage is about some of the problems that the weather can cause. In the past 10 years, this region has suffered badly from the weather. First, there was a drought. No rain fell for over a year. The crops did not grow, so people did not have enough to eat. Some died of hunger. Others caught diseases from drinking the small amount of dirty water that remained on the land. Other countries send aid in the form of food, fresh water, and medical supplies. But the famine still claimed thousands of lives. The rain finally returned to the region. It poured down heavily for a month without stopping. This caused widespread flooding. Villages in low-lying areas were almost completely underwater. Rivers burst their banks, sweeping away people, animals, and vehicles. After the floods had gone, the people who remained alive had another disaster to face. A tornado swept across the region, heading for one of the largest towns. All the inhabitants moved out, and the last few left just in time. The wind caused a number of houses and apartment blocks to collapse. The people who lived in these buildings returned after the tornado. They found a heap of rubble where their homes used to be.
Reading Passage 2. This passage gives you an example of a weather forecast. I always listen to the weather forecast on the radio. It tells me what the weather will probably be like for the rest of the week. This is what I heard on Monday. It will be very cold tonight. The temperature will fall to 5 degrees or lower. Some areas may have frost. Tomorrow morning will start fine and sunny, with clear skies everywhere. By midday, the temperature should rise to around 18 degrees. This is higher than usual for April. Clouds will then move in from the west. They will probably cross our region during the middle of the afternoon. Some of them may bring a little light rain. It will remain cloudy in the evening and overnight. There is a possibility of more rain in the early hours of Wednesday morning. The next few days will be much the same. Daytime temperatures will remain above average, with a mixture of sunshine and showers. However, things will change for the worse at the weekend. The wind will increase in strength on Saturday. It will be particularly strong on the East Coast. The midday temperature will be about 15 degrees, but it will feel much colder in the wind. There will be heavy rain on Sunday, especially in the afternoon and evening.
(11) Making friends. Before you read. 1. For how long have you known your best friend? 2. Do you know the names of any of your grandparents' friends? Reading Passage 1. This passage is about a friendship that has lasted for a long time. My grandmother has a friend called Sue. I asked my grandmother if she had known Sue for a long time. Yes, she replied. We've known each other for more than 60 years. We became friends straight away. People used to say we were like twins because we were never apart. However, when we left school, we lost touch for a while. Sue went to college in another town and then took a job there. I married your grandfather and we went to live in Singapore for several years. Then we returned to Wales and moved into this house, where we have lived ever since. One day in the supermarket, I saw a woman whose face looked familiar. It was Sue. She recognized me immediately. We went to a cafe for a tea and chatted for more than an hour. I discovered that Sue was living in an apartment less than a mile from here. Since then, we've seen each other at least once a week, and we never run out of things to talk about.
Reading Passage 2. This passage is a letter from Ming to his new pen friend, Jack. Dear Jack, thank you for asking me to be your pen friend. I would like that very much. I am 13 years old and I live in Beijing, China. We learn English at school. It is my favorite subject, and my teacher says that I am good at it. But I know that I make many mistakes. I hope you will tell me when I get something wrong. You asked me to write about my family and friends. I do not have any brothers or sisters. I live with my parents and my grandmother. She moved into our house after my grandfather died, because she did not want to live alone. My 3 best friends are called Nan, Yang, and Zemin. We like to play football together after school.